Thank you very much. Thank you for the organization, for inviting me, and for your kind words. I haven't heard the translation of the first part, but I suppose they were also kind. So thank you for everything. As you have said, some of you were in a reception center, so a part of my presentation is about our host system, our reception system. So I ask for apologize if some of you are going to listen this part for the second time. But talking about our experience, the Spanish experience in resettlement is relatively early. We had our first resettlement in 1999 with Kosovo Albanian refugees under the UNHCR Humanitarian Evacuation Program. But it was until 2011 when we had our first resettlement program, and about 80 refugees from Eritrea, Sudan, and Ethiopia that were in the Sousa camp in Tunisia arrived to Spain in July 2012. At the moment is the only real experience with resettlement that we have had. But in the near future, we are going to have to develop the two programs. The one relative to resettlement program 2012, and the one that refers to the resettlement program of 2013. For the program of 2012, they will become 30 refugees, and from the resettlement program of 2030, the number is not determined. It's being discussed at the moment, but what it is sure is that we will bring refugees from Syria that now are in a refugees camp around Syria. Talking about our legal frame, we've got the 2009 law on the right to asylum and subsidiary protection, which sets out the annual adoption of a national resettlement program by the government. I have just talked about our three programs for the moment. Talking about the authorities, we have a mixed system because it's the Ministry of Interior, but also the Ministry of Employment and Social Security, the competence on this subject. The national authority responsible for the asylum procedure is the Office of Asylum and Refugees, depending on the Ministry of Interior. Is the UNHCR the one that submits cases for initial screening by this office, and all pre-selected cases are interviewed by the Ministry of Interior during the selection missions. On the other hand, is the Ministry of Employment and Social Security, the one that also participates in selection missions because it's the responsible for assessing integration potential and capacity. Talking about our reception system, I have to say that Spain applies a broad selection criteria related to integration, comparing the needs of the resettled refugees with the assessment of the resources available both within the resettlement program and in other programs or services resettled refugees can access. I think this is one of our main strengths of our system, and I wanted to point it out. If we have to talk about our strengths, I will say that there are three main strengths of our system. We recognize the same rights to refugees and to resettled persons. They come with the status of refugees to Spain. I think we have a very complete reception system, which I am going to explain just now. And third, there is a strong, a real institutional commitment to the integration of resettled refugees among all the administrative levels, central government and also the local entities and the community and the autonomous communities. talking about the phases of our reception programs, we can talk about 3 phases. The first one is what we call living in a reception center. The second one, living independently. And the third one, looking for autonomy. It is said that the length of the whole program is or has to be of a maximum of 2 years. Obviously, if there are exceptional circumstances, it can be longer, but the average rate is of 2 years. We consider that it's important that all phases of the integration program that has to take place in the municipality in which the program is initiated. I mean, in the town in which is located the reception center. So it can allow the refugees to follow the integration program in the same place, and so he can set up networks, social networks, familiar networks among the vecinos, the neighboring, etc. Thank you. Talking about the first phase, living in a reception center, the objective is to provide the newcomers with the opportunity to adjust life in Spain before living independently in the community centers. These centers can be run directly by the Ministry of Employment and Social Security. In this sense, there are 4 public centers, 2 in Madrid, 1 in the south of Spain, in Sevilla, and 1 in the east of Spain, in Valencia. But we have also reception centers run by the NGOs, by the financial support of the Ministry of Employment. The capacity is different. We have small, medium, or large capacity centers with a maximum of 120 people. We have a maximum of 4 people per room, and the location of these centers, managed either by the state or either by the NGOs, are all around the country. The stay in the center usually will run to approximately 6 or 8 months, but I have to say that in this first resettlement program, people have stayed for more or less a year, more than what we thought at the beginning of the program. Technical teams of the reception centers know that have to begin as soon as possible the individualized itineraries of integration with the resettled refugees, Spanish courses, occupational training courses, etc. And we think it's fundamental that the participation of the beneficiary in the design of his own itinerary is fundamental to facilitate their integration process and to adjust their real expectations to the reality of the country. I will come afterwards to this point. We think it's important to take into account some aspects in the reception centers to prepare to the second phase. It is important to inform the beneficiaries of the date of the departure from the center, which is proposed by the technical team once assessed their vulnerability and their needs. It is also important to inform and work with beneficiaries the main difficulties that they will find in the second phase of the program. Necessary aspects for independent living as budget management, eligible items for financial assistance, search for housing, etc. We think it is very important to work with the resettled refugees these aspects. We have established that 2 months before the scheduled departure, reception centers, in coordination with the team that will manage the second phase, shall be the responsible for preparing in advance the output of the center. And it is important to organize family groups for renting the house. Why? Because we think it's better to provide that the cost of housing is more affordable for refugees once they complete the program. And we think that creating networks of support among refugees is a good thing, and is better to obtain organizing the family groups. The second phase, living independently, has the next objective. As the name says, is living independently in the host community, and it includes financial assistance for renting a house and living expenses. The program has fixed amounts depending on the composition of the group, if it's a family group or a people living together. And as I have said before, the location of this second phase is also in the municipality fixed in the individual integration pathway. They are not now in a reception center, they are in a rented house with public financial assistance, but we think that it has to be in the same municipality as the one of the first phase. And lastly, we've got the phase 3, looking for autonomy, which obviously is the final objective of the program, which may require assistance or casual or sporadic support in certain areas to complete the integration process developed over the previous 2 phases. So this is more or less our integration program, which works very directly with the resettled refugees. Obviously, from our experience, we know there are future challenges. And if I have to number them, I will say these are our future challenges. First of all, the social and cultural orientation. We think we have to manage expectations in a proper way. The resettled refugees need to know exactly which kind of country they are going to find here, which kind of reception system they are going to find, which are going to be their rights and their obligations, because other way, I think it's creating confusion among the refugees and among the, in this case, Spanish society. So we think we have to work with the cultural and social orientation so to manage in a proper way their expectations. We have to give the importance it has to the learning of the language. Is without any doubt one of the main obstacles to integration, and so we have learned that the Spanish lessons or the language lessons have to be improved. We have to continue because we think is very important the coordination with the municipalities' integration of resettled refugees during, but especially once they leave the program. It is then when they are going to live by their own, and it is then when the municipalities have to play a protagonist role in the integration of the resettled refugees. We also have in the future to increase the flexibility of the reception not only of resettled refugees, of asylum seekers, refugees, and of course resettled refugees to address the humanitarian crisis. We also have to strengthen the host system by learning best practice, and I think that Torre can help us to do so. And lastly, we are now pending the results of the participatory diagnosis conducted by the UNHCR in collaboration with reception centers, which will be for sure a very important instrument that will allow us to improve or to change things in order to make a better resettlement program. So Spain doesn't want to be out of this process. It is true that our economical situation is not the best situation, but we are going to make an effort during 2014 to bring resettled persons from Syria and try to improve our resettlement programs with our little experience, and so we will try to do as best as we can. And so thank you for listening to me, and thank you for your invitation.
Thank you to Elena too Thanks for coming, thanks for being with us. Grazie per essere venute, per aver accettato l'invito e soprattutto grazie per il contributo alla discussione che un po' tutti i colleghi, diciamo, della Spagna hanno fornito al progetto. In particolare sono state, insomma, interessantissime, soprattutto per noi che abbiamo potuto apprezzare, diciamo, la dimensione vicina a quello che pensiamo anche noi come la dimensione ottimale degli interventi in questo senso, piccole esperienze. Ricordava Vincenzo stamattina, abbiamo visitato questa comunità rurale in Siguenza in cui abbiamo apprezzato molto, diciamo, questo spirito comunitario dell'accoglienza in una piccola città, un piccolo borgo in cui abbiamo avuto la sensazione che ci fosse un buon clima di integrazione, accompagnato però, diciamo, da un processo di qualità e di professionalità degli interventi e delle organizzazioni che hanno sostenuto evidentemente quel progetto di reinsediamento. Così come per la Spagna abbiamo avuto occasione di beneficiare nel progetto della conoscenza diciamo delle esperienze di reinsediamento in Portogallo, e saluto Teresa Mendez che rappresenta qui uno dei due partner portoghesi insieme alla rete europea per la lotta alla povertà e APN Portogallo, il Consiglio portoghese per i rifugiati. Teresa Mendez è presidente e fondatrice del Consiglio portoghese per i rifugiati, che è stato fondato nel 1991 e dal 1998 è partner operativo delle operazioni di UNHCR in Portogallo. Anche qui abbiamo apprezzato molto il contributo che i colleghi portoghesi hanno fornito al progetto. In particolare abbiamo apprezzato nel caso dello scambio in Portogallo anche proprio la presenza, la possibilità di poter dialogare. Siamo stati anche a cena con i beneficiari di uno dei progetti, diciamo, di accoglienza attraverso l'insediamento in Portogallo. Do la parola a Teresa Mendez per il suo contributo alla discussione del pomeriggio.
Thank you, Gianpietro, for your words, and good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the organization of this final conference of Torre project. It is a great pleasure for me to be in this lovely city of Bologna and being able to discuss with you such an important issue as resettlement. Resettlement is a protection tool, an expression of solidarity and burden sharing with countries that received refugees. Currently, only a small part of the UNHCR submissions, around 4,500 in Europe, come to Europe. I strongly believe that Europe can and must do more for refugees. That is why projects like Torre and other European initiatives that count with the support of UNHCR are so important to raise awareness, increase public knowledge, and influence governments and decision makers to increase the number of resettlement places in Europe. For me, the success of Torre derives from the articulation between research and field work, which are essential for the transference of knowledge and sustainable refugees resettlement programs. The exchange of best practice and networking among different European organizations proved to be fruitful and should continue in the future. In Portugal, we started resettlement programs in 2006 first ad hoc and after within a minister resolution of a quota of 30 persons per year. Since then, Portugal received 166 refugees, mainly from Eritrea, Sudan, Iraq, among others.